Lifted from the Fire. Frits Manempering, Indonesia, 1997. The small mob surrounded the church, holding rocks in each hand. They clapped the stones together furiously. The radical Muslims were like madmen carrying out a holy pilgrimage of terror. A policeman begged Pastor Frits Manempering, "Pastor, please don't hold a service here today. This is what the Muslim leaders want. They have become crazy." Not desiring to stir up any more trouble, Pastor Frits assured the police officer that they would not have services. As members of the congregation arrived, Frits shouted to them to go back to their homes. But before the church members could respond, the mob erupted, their stones flying. As the Muslims attacked the church, they chanted, "Allahu Akbar," which means Allah is Almighty. Like Saul, before his conversion, these men believed they were serving God. They were punishing infidels, those who blasphemed. The police tried to stop the mob, but with little success. These Muslims were fixed on persecuting the followers of Jesus. The mob dragged Fritz's wife outside, beating and kicking her. If the security officers hadn't stopped them, Pastor Frits and his wife would have been killed. The officers took Frits and his wife to the military office for their safety. Frits filed a report, but no arrests were made. No one would have blamed Frits or his wife if they had left the town or stopped their church services altogether. But they had pastored there for over 10 years. They loved their congregation. So despite the threat of future persecution, they remained in the area to minister the gospel. 2 weeks later, a security officer warned Pastor Frits of another attack by radical Muslims. That evening, the mob arrived, bigger and angrier than before. This time, they were ready for jihad, or holy war. Again, they surrounded the church, which was also Pastor Fritz's home, and began to throw stones, yelling, "Attack! Attack!" This time, the police did not show up to protect Fritz's family. It didn't take the mob long to enter the church and ransack everything in sight. They cut off the electricity, leaving the rooms in darkness. Before Frits and his wife could escape, someone hit his wife across the back of the head with a club. Frits was clubbed until his face was drenched in blood. The Muslims then tied Frits with steel wire and continued to beat him. Frits cried out, "Lord Jesus, help!" One of the attackers forced a burning cigarette into Fritz's mouth. Laughing and jeering, he told Frits, "Eat your Jesus." A hood was placed over the pastor's head, and he was taken outside and stripped naked. Attackers beat him, burned him with cigarettes, and rolled him through broken glass from the church window. Others continued to destroy his home and church. The chants of the attackers echoed in his ears, "Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar." Finally, a blow to his jaw was more than he could bear, and Frits fell unconscious. When he awoke, he found himself lying on a pile of wood from the ruined church. His attackers were throwing shattered furniture on top of him. He was soon choking from smoke as the flames emerged around him. Frits prayed what he thought was his final prayer before meeting his Lord face to face. "Lord, I give my soul and spirit to you." Frits doesn't remember how it happened, but he suddenly found himself being lifted from the blaze. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, God had spared him from the flames. After Frits escaped the fire, he was tied to a pole, stoned, and left for dead. He suffered a concussion, his jaw was smashed, and nerves in his eyes were permanently damaged. But Frits refused to give up and die. Frits and his wife are now staying with friends near where their church and home were destroyed. Not surprisingly, he continues to pastor the flock. They defeated him, Satan, through the blood of the Lamb and the bold word of their witness. They weren't in love with themselves. They were willing to die for Christ. John the Apostle, tortured and exiled 97 AD, Roman Empire.